Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Like I got a call from CFO of Goldman Sachs when I declined the offer, and I got to H&M.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Quarantine. The fact that we can't travel, can't go out to meet our friends, have that favorite long drive on the weekends that we always waited for, is kind of making us realize the importance of these elements of it. And today we have someone whose company actually helped you in achieving all of these things all these years. I have Mayank Agarwal with me today. Hi Mayank. Mayank works for Uber and he's responsible for keeping an eye on the supply side of things for Uber and is looking after growth as well. So Mayank, to begin with, you had a background in computer science engineering, and from computer science engineering you joined a firm where you got a hands-on training on the supply chain side. Tell us a little bit about this shift. Tell us a little bit about this switch that happened.
In my engineering college days, when I got used to programming databases, I realized while I liked the tech piece of the things, I was maybe more inclined towards the business side of things and how are things run. Right. In my college days, I used to also teach and manage a coaching institute. So that was something I really liked to do. So while I got placed from my institution to a tech giant Infosys, there was this opportunity window of 3-4 months wherein my joining didn't come. And at that point of time, I got through the future leadership program of this company, which you see as Kailash Vahan Udyog Limited. And they are a very big bodybuilding company. They are into heavy manufacturing. They do work for all the major OEMs, etc. And once I entered, I started liking the work in supply chain and operations. Supply chain particularly intrigued me a lot because we, in a contractual manufacturing setup, never had the problem of efficiency or quality. It was majorly all supply chain driven, that if you're able to buy right, if you're able to buy it at the right price, give it at the right time and the right quality, and you're able to, convert it in correct fashion, then you are all set. So supply chain was the biggest challenge area, so I worked in a lot, and then it slowly sparked my interest. And when I kept reading a lot around it, then also it gave me a perspective that how supply chain actually functions, how we should go about it. Yeah.
Does it happen like a engineer has a definite inclination towards supply chain and operations? Because what happens is you have to be good with numbers, you have to love numbers, and you have to actually calculate and do a lot of maths in your head. So does this play a role in an engineer's life?
It's more about solving problems. So supply chain, while it sounds interesting, it is filled with problems. There are multiple points in the value chain or in the supply chain where there are multiple kind of challenges. So anybody entering at a spot or managing it end to end has a lot of challenges and problems to solve. And engineers typically are known to solve a lot of problems, whether you see the startup ecosystem, whether you see in general, that's the field all about. So I feel that it's not only about numbers, it's also about solving challenging problems.
So your 4 years working at a place where you actually learned, like a hands-on training on supply chain happened for you.
Yes.
And did that act as a catalyst for you to join B school?
It's a very interesting story. So 4 years into Kailash Vahan, and the auto industry was again going through a cyclical shift, wherein the industry was going through a dip. There were a lot of challenges. We were facing a loss of orders, etc. At that point of time, I felt that it is very important to also, not only look forward, but also look back and see what I could have done better. I had a mentor in the organization, and he suggested that, I've spent good amount of time in supply chain. I understand things well, and I should try my hand out in going for, higher education or exploring other fields if possible, and trying for international kind of a job offer if required. So he asked me to explore. At that point of time, I decided to take a switch and I moved to Deloitte consulting company in the field of supply chain as part of their industry hire program. I was the only
Right.
one who was a non-B school hire there. And from there, my interest sparked on when people used to use a lot of MBA terms. They had a lot more context when they were speaking, and
Correct.
they looked much more prepared. They had much better presentation skills, much better analytical skills. And I thought, yeah, I need to upgrade myself.
IIM Lucknow is where you stepped in. Your first year of college, how was it like? Was it very different than what you have actually thought it to be, or was it something that you were expecting and you were gung-ho about it and you were like, no, this is something that I always wanted and this is something that I'm going to ace?
So I entered from a very different mindset. So my mentor always told me that, there you will find different kind of people and there will be a lot of perspective, diversity, the things you only hear in theory, you will see a lot of things going in practical there. I was a class representative, which is a very difficult duty. It's a president kind of a job wherein you manage the committees, etc., etc. I always tried to remain more focused on attending lectures, self-studying a lot. Average sleeping time was 3 hours, 4 hours a day, and I continued with it. So I really loved it. There was everything. So I am as this gamut of things. There are amazing professors. There is an amazing peer group. You have the library, which has all the journals in the world there. You have all the e-resources, all the statistical databases, the quantum of knowledge that exists there. Sometimes it is very difficult, you to figure out the right piece because there are so many. But if you really look hard, you get it.
Moving on from your B school, tell us where did you move next and what exactly were the learnings that you get there?
So I got through two big organizations through my campus. One was Goldman Sachs and second was H&M. And
Right.
here is where my keen interest in supply chain played a very critical role. Like I got a call from CFO of Goldman Sachs when I declined the offer and I got to H&M.
You declined a offer from the CFO who called you up, who is from Goldman Sachs. What was the reason behind it? What was the thought behind it?
While I was very good in finance, I didn't want to lose what I had learned. So one thing that I learned in B school was never, think short term, think long term. How will your career evolve? It's a 40-year journey. How you want to go about it? What you really love to do. So finance, while I loved from a personal perspective, but I thought that there are a lot more people who are better than me in that. And from a professional perspective, I may not really enjoy doing it a lot. It was very difficult because a lot of seniors called in. The CFO himself, he was the CFO for APAC. He made me understand like what's the balance sheet of Goldman Sachs and what's the balance sheet of H&M. Like they eat an H&M every day kind of philosophy. But yeah, I took that call of going to H&M and
Right.
moving into operations just to follow and build on what I had done earlier in past.
Right. So you go to H&M and you take up roles that you always wanted to take up. What was the major learning that happened during your H&M days?
H&M was very, very, very different role. So I went into a strategy kind of a role. And I used to report to global strategy heads. H&M was always divided into supply chains and there were global strategy heads. And I was strategy head for India and Lanka for two supply chains, footwear, bags, belts and accessories. So a lot more learning on the product side, number one, which I had no clue about how a shoe is made, how a bag is made, how accessories are made. And a lot more insights into how apparel and a fashion supply chain actually works. So a case study will never give you that perspective which hands-on learning gives. And there has been a lot spoken about auto and all, but these fashion companies really keep it very close.
Right.
Because like there are broad thoughts around, but how they really do it. So a lot more learning into that, as well as a lot of global exposure. So all my counterparts were Turkish, Chinese, and European. So a lot more. I used to meet them every quarter for strategy meets in Hong Kong, Shanghai, Guangzhou. So a lot more global exposure, how it is actually done across the globe.
What prompted you for the move from H&M to Uber, where you currently work?
4 years in Kailash Vahan groomed me to work really hard. Like I have learned this, and this is my philosophy that there's nothing known as the smart way. Right? it's always the hard way. So you continue practicing, you continue working hard, and you automatically become smart, right? And you become more efficient at it. You start solving it quickly, or something like that. So H&M is a very European organization, Swedish organization. They are very work life balance driven, very structured, very compartmentalized. That was something I was not looking for or enjoying to do a lot. I wanted much more hustle in my life. I wanted drive more impact, drive more disruptions, work more hard. Because I have felt that across. There was a bump in between Deloitte, which was again structured, but consulting gives you all kind of opportunities if you want to explore. So
Right.
that was the shift, and I got an opportunity in Uber, and I grabbed it.
You worked for Kailash Vahan, and then you worked for a major retail chain, and then you worked for a consulting firm like Deloitte, and then you joined Uber. This, how do you map this? How do you like from one point to another?
I would say the journey started off much more from ground ups. And then as I started getting more experienced and exposed, and when I topped it up with a B school degree, I moved on the strategy side of things.
Right.
So that's how I would map my journey.
When you joined Uber, there was a surge in ride-hailing apps in India, and it was booming. That was maybe the best time to join a company like this, when the expansion was on a war footing, and you were part of that expansion. How was that experience like? Tell us, like, take us through that moment and tell us what exactly happened.
So Uber is a very great organization. They are very data driven. Their hiring mechanisms and processes are very good. They believe in hiring good talent. They really set themselves for something they want to achieve. That's what I have felt. So small teams, focused teams on a goal, and then you are really you are the captain of the ship.
Right.
While you always know, you always have someone who can steer you if you are into a storm. But you are really given all the power, all the authority to make it happen. Now the things have changed because the organization has gone public. There are a lot more regulatory guardrails. The scale is pretty massive, and things have to come a lot in structure. But it was a lot of hustle, ownership, and incredible talent which drove this expansion. While the pandemic hopefully wavers off early. So in my personal opinion, people will value safety and hygiene a lot more.